The hidden business of death. For centuries, death was a deeply personal event. Families took care of their loved ones, burying them in their own backyards, in family plots, or in simple handmade caskets. Today, that tradition has been overtaken by a multi-billion-dollar funeral industry that capitalizes on grief, turning what was once a free or low-cost ritual into one of the most expensive moments of a person's life after their death. But what if we told you that burying someone in your backyard is still legal in most states? And yet, funeral homes charge thousands, even tens of thousands, for services that families once handled themselves for free. This is the dark side of the funeral industry, where death isn't just the end of life, it's a highly profitable business. The history of home burials. In early America, and even well into the 20th century, home burials were the norm. Families would wash and prepare their dead, build wooden caskets, and hold funerals inside their homes. Loved ones were buried on family property, with no funeral director, no embalming, and no thousands of dollars spent. But as cities grew and land became scarce, funeral directors, originally carpenters who built caskets, began to take over the process. By the early 1900s, the funeral industry saw an opportunity to turn death into a business. Laws were passed requiring embalming for interstate transport, and soon funeral homes convinced families that they needed professional services, even though the law did not require it. The rise of the funeral industry. As time went on, a natural family process became an industry standard. Funeral homes, backed by powerful lobbying groups, pushed for laws that made it harder for families to bury their dead without their services. How they profit off death. Casket markups. Funeral homes charge 500% to 1,000% markups on caskets. A simple pine box that costs $200 to build can be sold for $3,000 or more. Embalming, a necessary lie? Most states do not require embalming, yet funeral homes push it as a must-have, charging $500 per body. Service fees. Funeral homes add fees for handling, paperwork, and transportation, totaling thousands of dollars. Cemetery plots and vaults. Many cemeteries require vaults, cement boxes around the casket, driving up costs, when simple burials in natural settings are still legal in most places. The hidden secret. Backyard burials are still legal. Despite what the funeral industry wants people to believe, home burials are still legal in most states with minimal regulation. What they don't want you to know. In most states, you can bury a loved one on private property. Embalming is not required by law except in rare cases. Families can build their own caskets, saving thousands of dollars. A simple backyard burial costs under $500 compared to $10,000 plus at a funeral home. But the industry has worked tirelessly to keep this information hidden, pushing families into expensive, unnecessary services while discouraging the centuries-old practice of home burials. The funeral home cartel and laws that favor big business. The funeral industry is heavily controlled by a small group of powerful corporations, including Service Corporation International, SCI, which owns thousands of funeral homes under different names. How they maintain their monopoly. State licensing laws. In some states, families cannot even handle their own dead without hiring a licensed funeral director. Cemetery regulations. Many cemeteries require vaults, expensive caskets, and perpetual care fees, preventing families from choosing cheaper options. Consumer misinformation. Funeral homes don't disclose that cheaper, direct burial and home burial options exist. How families can avoid the death industry's trap. There is a growing death-positive movement fighting back against the corporate takeover of death. More people are choosing green burials, simple, eco-friendly burials that avoid embalming and expensive caskets, home funerals, families preparing bodies themselves without funeral homes, cremation without funeral homes, direct cremation cutting out unnecessary expenses. The truth about death and profit. For centuries, death was personal, free, and handled by families. The funeral industry turned it into a corporate money machine, making millions by convincing people that they needed expensive services that were once done for free. But the truth is simple. You don't need a funeral home. You don't need an expensive casket. You don't even need a cemetery. Death isn't just an end, it's big business. And the funeral industry is making sure they profit every step of the way.